Have you ever stopped to think that perhaps the greatest force shaping your financial reality today is not your income, not your education, not even your conscious choices, but something that happened long before you had any choice to make? If you have already watched our previous videos, you know that consciousness creates reality and that habits build or destroy prosperity. But today we go deeper than ever before, all the way to the root of everything, all the way to the place where your relationship with money truly began. What you are about to discover may be uncomfortable, not because it is frightening, but because it is true. And deep truths always ask us to stop, breathe, and look inward with an honesty that most people avoid their entire lives. Every belief you have about what is financially possible for you, every automatic reaction when money appears or disappears, every invisible ceiling that seems impossible to break through, all of it has an origin. And today, you are going to find it. Before we continue, one thing matters. Stay until the end of this video, because we have prepared something special for you. A practical, simple, and powerful gift that you can use today to begin releasing the financial weight that was never truly yours to carry. It is not theory. It is a real tool for healing. And if you want to continue this journey and be notified every time a new video like this goes live, subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell.
Every video here is one more step in this transformation. You are about to understand why the child you were is still making decisions for the adult you became, and what to do to finally change that. There is a financial programming that most people carry without ever having chosen it. It did not come from a book. It did not come from a school. It did not come from any conscious decision. It came from the living room of your childhood, from the way your parents spoke when the bills arrived, from the expression that money produced on the faces of the people around you. Even before you understood what money was, your nervous system was already learning what it meant emotionally. A child's mind does not filter, it absorbs. And everything that was absorbed in those early years became the invisible foundation upon which you build your financial decisions today. If money was scarce at home, your mind learned that scarcity is the natural state of things. If money was a source of tension, your mind learned that prosperity brings problems. If there was never anything left over, your mind learned that surplus is not for people like you. These are not truths. They are recordings. What makes this programming so powerful is that it operates below the level of consciousness. You may intellectually know that you deserve prosperity and still act in ways that sabotage it, because the part of you that decides is not the part that reads self-help books. It is the part that was formed when you were 5, 6, 7 years old. And that part only changes when it is seen, named, and consciously rewritten. What exactly needs to be seen is what begins to reveal itself now.
Try to remember a phrase about money that you heard repeatedly as a child. It may have been, "Money does not grow on trees," "Rich people are all thieves," "We are not rich enough for that," "Money is the root of all evil," or simply a tense silence every time the subject came up. These phrases seem harmless, just everyday expressions, right? But for a child's mind that does not yet have the capacity to question, filter, or contextualize, each of these phrases was installed directly into the subconscious as absolute truth about the nature of money and about the place you occupy in relation to it. The problem is not that your parents or caregivers were wrong about everything. The problem is that they transmitted their own limiting beliefs without realizing it.
beliefs that were also inherited from their parents, who inherited them from theirs, in a chain of financial programming that crosses entire generations. When your mother said, "We do not have money for that," with a tone of resignation, she was not just describing a momentary reality. She was transmitting an identity, the identity of someone who does not have, who cannot, who does not deserve. And you absorbed that identity as if it were your own. The moment of liberation begins when you realize that these voices still speak inside you, only now with your own voice. When you hesitate before charging what you are worth, it is an inherited voice speaking. When you feel guilty for spending on something that makes you feel good, it is an inherited voice speaking. Identifying where these voices came from does not solve everything at once, but it is the first step towards stopping obeying them without question. And what comes after that identification is where things start to get truly interesting. Between birth and approximately 7 years of age, the human brain operates predominantly in theta waves, the same brain state that adults experience during deep hypnosis. This means that a young child's mind is literally in download mode. It does not analyze, does not question, does not filter. It simply records. Everything that is seen, heard, and felt during this period is installed directly into the subconscious as baseline programming. And that programming will operate silently for decades.
Dr. Bruce Lipton, cell biologist and author of The Biology of Belief, dedicated decades of research to showing exactly this, that most of our adult behavior is not controlled by the conscious mind, but by the subconscious programs installed in childhood. When you try to change a financial pattern using only willpower and positive thinking, you are using the conscious mind to fight against a much deeper and much older subconscious programming. It is like trying to redirect a river with your hands. The intention is right, but the approach underestimates the strength of the current. This is not a sentence, it is an explanation. Understanding why you think, feel, and act the way you do in relation to money is not an exercise in victimhood. It is an exercise in clarity. Because you cannot rewrite what you cannot read. And most people spend their lives reacting to a programming they never stopped to examine. Which means that the simple decision to look inward already puts you ahead of a large portion of the population. And what you will find when you look is exactly what comes next. There is a fundamental difference between carrying a belief and having chosen a belief. Most people never stop to make this distinction, and so they spend decades defending ideas about money that were never truly theirs. An inherited belief is one that reached you before you had the vocabulary to question it. A chosen belief is one that you examined, tested against reality, and consciously decided to adopt. The distance between these two categories is where real financial freedom lives. Think about some of the beliefs you have about money right now. Money is hard to earn. To have a lot, you must sacrifice a lot. Wealthy people are different from me. Now ask honestly, did you reach these conclusions through personal experience and conscious reflection? Or did you simply inherit them and never question them? That question is not comfortable, but it is necessary. Because continuing to carry beliefs that are not yours is like wearing clothes that were not made for your body. They work well enough not to attract attention, but they never feel completely right. The process of transforming inherited beliefs into chosen beliefs is not fast, but it is simple. It begins with one question. Is this true, or is this what I was taught to believe? That question, asked with honesty and without judgment, has the power to create a crack in the oldest programming. And through that crack enters the light of consciousness, the real possibility of choosing differently. If this content is touching something in you, hit the like button now. It is a simple way of saying that this message landed where it needed to land. But identifying the belief is only the beginning.
Because there is something even deeper that needs to be understood before any real change can happen. There is a financial fear that many people carry that was not born from any personal experience of failure. It was born from witnessing someone else's failure. A father who lost his job and was never the same again. A mother who went into debt and lived years under the weight of shame. A grandfather who went bankrupt and whose story was told in a tone of warning for generations. These inherited fears are particularly insidious because they seem legitimate. After all, the experience really happened, but it happened to someone else in a different context at a different time.
When a child observes a significant adult go through financial suffering, the nervous system registers not only the event, but the emotion. An emotion registered in childhood creates what psychologists call somatic memory, a memory that does not live only in the mind, but in the body. That is why some people feel physical anxiety when thinking about investing, asking for a raise, or starting a business. It is not weakness. It is the body responding to a danger that was learned, even if that danger was never personally experienced. Liberation from this pattern begins with a very clear separation. Their story is not your story. The context was different. The tools available were different. The moment was different. And most importantly, you are different. Carrying someone else's financial fear as if it were your own does not protect them retroactively. It only limits your future. Write in the comments, what is one money belief you inherited from your family that you are ready to leave behind? Because naming what was inherited is the first real act of separation. And what comes after that separation is where real healing begins. For many people, the most vivid memory about money in childhood is not of scarcity, but of conflict. Arguments between parents about bills that did not add up. Silent tension that filled the house at the end of the month. Discussions that began with a number and ended with words that had nothing to do with money. When a child grows up in that environment, they learn a dangerous and silent equation. Money equals imbalance. Money equals pain. And a mind that learned that will do everything in its power to keep a safe distance from prosperity, because at the deepest level, it still believes that having more will create more
conflict. This pattern manifests in ways that seem unrelated to childhood. The person who sabotages a promotion because they unconsciously fear what will change in the relationships around them. The person who cannot save money because having too much activates a feeling of danger they cannot name. The person who feels guilty when they earn well, as if prosperity were a betrayal of the people left behind. All of these reactions share a common root: the child who learned that money destabilizes what they love. Healing this pattern does not come from ignoring the memory. It comes from reframing it, from understanding that the conflict you witnessed was not caused by money itself, but by the unconscious relationship the people around you had with it. Money itself does not create conflict. The lack of consciousness around it does. And you, by being here, by seeking this understanding, are already building a different relationship. Share this video with someone you feel carries this weight, because sometimes the greatest healing begins when someone shows us we are not alone in this. And what comes after this reframing is something that transforms not just the relationship with money, but with yourself. Identifying an inherited belief is the first step, but identifying is not enough. Many people spend years in therapy, in courses, in reading, knowing exactly where their financial patterns came from, and still continue repeating the same behaviors. This happens because intellectual knowledge and subconscious reprogramming are completely different processes. You can know that a belief is not yours and still continue obeying it, because it does not live in your head. It lives in your body, in your automatic reactions, in your oldest habits. Real reprogramming happens through the repetition of new emotional experiences. Not new information, new experiences. When you act in a way that contradicts the old programming, when you charge what you deserve even while feeling the discomfort, when you invest even while feeling the fear, when you receive a compliment about your prosperity without diminishing it, you are creating a new emotional memory. And repeated emotional memories build new neural networks. Joe Dispenza describes this process in Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself as rehearsing the future in the present, acting as the version of you who has already rewritten the story. A practical exercise to begin now: take an inherited financial belief you identified throughout this video. Write it on paper exactly as it was transmitted, with the original words, in the original tone. Below it, write the version you choose to believe. Not the ideal version, but the version one step above where you are now. Read it out loud. Do this for 7 consecutive days. Not because 7 days will solve everything, but because conscious repetition is the language the subconscious understands. If you are subscribed to the channel, activate the bell now. Every video here is a new step in this reprogramming, and the next step is something that most people never considered necessary.
There is something that most content about financial mindset completely ignores, and it is exactly what makes all the difference. It is not enough to rewrite beliefs at the intellectual level. It is not enough to affirm new thoughts or visualize new results. There is a part of you that is still waiting to hear something it never heard. The child who absorbed all those messages about scarcity, conflict, and limitation never received the opposite message. Never heard that prosperity was safe, that deserving was allowed, that having more did not mean losing the love of the people around them. This inner child is not a poetic metaphor. It is a real psychological structure. The concept of the inner child, widely studied by psychologists like John Bradshaw in Homecoming and by therapists from various approaches, describes the emotional part of us that was formed in childhood and continues to influence our adult responses. When an adult reacts with disproportionate anxiety to an unexpected bill, or with shame when talking about money, or with paralysis in the face of a financial opportunity, it is frequently this younger part responding, not the conscious adult. What transforms this pattern is not ignoring this inner child. It is speaking to them, directly, consciously, with the words they needed to hear and never heard. You are enough. You deserve to prosper. Money will not take away the love of the people who matter. It is safe to have more. These phrases may seem too simple to make a difference, but spoken with genuine intention, repeated with consistency, they begin to fill a void that no financial strategy can reach. Subscribe to the channel now, because in our next video, we will reveal something that most people never consider: how the universe tests your alignment before delivering abundance. Do not miss it. And the next step in this journey is something that will change the way you see not just the past, but the entire future that is still yours to build. Most people approach prosperity as a battle, something to be conquered, achieved, earned through enough effort and sacrifice. And while discipline and action are real parts of the process, there is a dimension of prosperity that this approach completely ignores: the dimension of healing. For those who grew up with limiting financial programming, building wealth is not just a matter of strategy or mindset. It is a profound act of reconciliation with a part of oneself that was taught to believe that abundance was not for them. When you begin to treat your financial journey as a healing process, rather than a race for achievements, something fundamental changes in the way you relate to each step of the path. Setbacks stop being proof of failure and become information about what still needs to be integrated. Victories stop being just numbers and become confirmations that the reprogramming is working. And money itself
stops being the final objective and becomes a reflection of how much you have expanded your capacity to receive, not just financially, but in every dimension of life. This shift in perspective is not just philosophical, it is practical. People who treat their prosperity as healing make more conscious financial decisions because they are not reacting to the past, they are responding to the present. They invest with more clarity, save with more intention, and spend with more freedom because the inherited fear has been gradually replaced by a confidence built from the inside out. And if you have made it this far, you are already in this process, even if you cannot fully feel it yet. The seed has been planted. And the last step of today's journey is about what happens when you decide, once and for all, to stop repeating a story that was never yours. There is a moment when consciousness becomes a choice, not an easy choice, not a painless choice, but a real one. The moment when you realize that your family's financial history is not a hereditary sentence, it is a pattern, and patterns can be interrupted.
Not by denying the past, not by anger at those who transmitted these beliefs, but by the conscious and repeated decision to act from who you are becoming, rather than reacting from who you were taught to be. Interrupting a generational pattern is not a small act. It is possibly one of the most courageous acts a human being can perform, because it means swimming against a current that existed long before you were born. It means disappointing silent expectations. It means prospering in ways that the people around you may have never considered possible. And sometimes it means doing it without any map, without any model, without any close example that it is possible. But that is exactly where consciousness becomes the most powerful tool you have, because it allows you to create what has never been created before in your lineage. You made it here, and that is already an act of rupture with the pattern. The person who absorbed without questioning would not be here. The person who decided that the inherited story was final would not be here. You are here because something in you already knows it is possible to live differently. And that knowing, however small it may feel right now, is the foundation of everything that comes next. Share this video with someone from your family or your story, because sometimes the greatest healing begins when we break the silence together.
And for those who stayed until the end, we have a special gift waiting for you. Stay a few more minutes, because what comes next may be the most important moment of this entire video. Before we close, there is one thing left to do, and it is the most important part of this entire video. Everything you heard today was preparation for this moment. So if you can, find a quiet place, sit comfortably, and give yourself the next few minutes. Not for relaxation, not for meditation, but for healing. The first thing you are going to do is grab a piece of paper and a pen. You are going to write the name of one person from your childhood. It can be one of your parents, a grandparent, a caregiver, someone whose relationship with money you observed closely. Below the name, write one phrase that this person said or felt about money. It does not need to be literal. It can be a feeling, a behavior, a silence. Write whatever comes without judgment. When you finish, look at what you wrote and ask one simple and powerful question. Do I choose to carry this? Not as an accusation toward that person, but as your own conscious and adult decision. If the answer is no, write below, this belief belongs to the past. I choose to move forward differently. Read that sentence out loud, once, with intention. Because declaring out loud is an act that simultaneously activates the mind, the body, and the field of consciousness around you.
This is your quantum healing reset. Simple, powerful, and completely yours. Keep that paper. Come back to it when you feel the old weight trying to return. And observe what begins to change. You made it to the end, and that already says something about you. The person who still believes their financial story is sealed does not make it to the end of a video like this. You made it because something in you already knows it is possible to live differently. And that knowing, however small it may feel right now, is more powerful than any limiting belief you inherited. What was explored today is not surface-level self-help psychology. It is a truth that neuroscience, biology, and decades of research on human behavior confirm. You were programmed before you could choose, and that programming still operates silently, automatically, day after day in every financial decision you make. But the moment you see it, name it, and decide to act differently, the programming loses part of its power. Not all at once, but enough to begin. The question that remains is not what happened to me. The question that transforms is, what do I choose to do with what I know now? You cannot change the past. You cannot rewrite childhood. You cannot choose the beliefs that were installed before you had the vocabulary to question them. But you can, from this moment forward, decide that the story you were given does not have to be the story you continue living. That decision is yours. It always was. Share this video with someone from your family or your story, because sometimes the greatest healing begins when we break the silence together. If this content touched something in you, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and continue this journey with Kai and Lyra, because in our next video, we will reveal something that most people never consider: how the universe tests your alignment before delivering abundance. Do not miss it. See you there.